So what incentives do the politicians have to play ball with their donors, with all these corporate donations they're getting, et cetera? Well, obviously, the money that they get to run their campaigns. But what's more important is the money they get after they leave office. RepublicReport.org did this amazing study in 2010 of the politicians that left. Do you know what kind of an increase they got in salary? 1,452% increase in salary. Now, how is that for legalized bribery? Don't worry, be a good team player, and we're going to give you a ton of money afterwards. That's how this game is played. In fact, if anybody would know how to play a game, it's Heath Schuler. I say that because he was a former quarterback, but in reality, if you knew how he was a quarterback, you would know that he has no idea how to play a game. But nonetheless, he was about to leave office, and everybody knew this. It was about 6 months ago, and two of my favorite reporters, Zaid Jilani and Li Fang, caught up with him and asked him if he was going to be a lobbyist. Let's watch.
Are you planning to become a lobbyist?
No.
So you won't go into the influence industry at all after this year?
Guys, you're
just want to get you on record here.
You're barking up the wrong tree, my friend.
What do you plan to do after you retire?
Have a better job than you guys have, that's for sure.
Yeah, gonna be better off than you because I can take the bribes. Okay, but he said he wasn't gonna become a lobbyist. Well, the guy who asked him is Li Fang. He's one of the guys, as I mentioned. He's a contributing writer for The Nation. He's a reporting fellow with the Investigative Fund at the Nation Institute. So, Lee, I'm sure that Heath kept his word, right? So he's out of, or he's going to be out of office soon. What's his new job?
Well, Heath Schuler just announced earlier this week that he'll be the chief lobbyist for Duke Energy, which is now one of the largest utility companies in the country, largely coal-based, but also based in North Carolina, where Heath Schuler is from. So he did kind of break his pledge, but what was more astounding than that, he broke the pledge pretty early. I mean, he's actually a sitting congressman still who's leading negotiations with the fiscal cliff stuff. So while he's negotiating on the budget priorities for our entire country, he's already accepted a job on K Street.
So I want the audience to understand why that's so important, because now they might do the deal in the lame duck session when Heath Schuler is still in Congress, as Lee pointed out. So are there things in the deal, Lee, that might affect Duke Energy or any of the other energy companies?
Well, sure. Duke Energy is one of the large utilities that actually pays a negative tax rate. Not only do they pay no corporate income taxes, taxpayers give them a rebate every year, even though they've made tens of billions of dollars in profit over the last 5 years. And the reason for that is because lobbyists like Heath Schuler, or soon-to-be Heath Schuler, have carved out lots of special tax credits and special incentives in the tax code that Duke Energy benefits from. So with this fiscal cliff negotiation, a lot of folks are talking about taking away some of those credits to balance the budget. So the fact that the person who's leading these negotiations, or is among the leaders, has accepted a job with one of the companies that faces a lot of peril in these negotiations is quite troubling.
No, what's amazing is how we've come to accept it. Well, obviously, there's no problem that the guy who's going to represent the people that would be affected to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars possibly is leading the negotiations. And by the way, he's not a Republican. He's a Democrat. Okay? I mean, the system is so corrupt. We've become so incredibly used. I mean, think about that. The chart that we showed, Lee, $5.5 billion, what Lee was talking about, $5.5 billion they made between 2008 and 2010. They paid a negative 3.9% tax rate. We pay Duke Energy instead of them paying taxes. It's insanity. Now, the other part of it, Lee, is the guy that seems to be so relevant into all of this fiscal cliff grand bargain negotiations is Grover Norquist, even though he's not elected, right? But you also did a story about who's behind Grover Norquist and who he really represents, and I think that's a really interesting story. So who's the money behind Grover?
Well, Grover Norquist is an interesting guy. He's obviously captured the minds and the attention of the entire Republican Party, but I'd like folks to look at him a little bit differently. If you look at Grover Norquist's budget, because he has this large foundation that kind of enforces his pledge, 2/3 of his money, about 66% of his budget, comes from only two billionaire-backed nonprofits. These are groups founded by folks like the Koch brothers, like the Bechtel Corporation, like Karl Rove. So these are the plutocrats that are worth billions of dollars that would not like to see their tax rates go up. And so it shouldn't be any surprise that they're giving money to Norquist as their enforcer.
Yeah, and so, of course, a lot of those donors are in private equity, defense contractors, et cetera. So shockingly enough, they care a lot about the tax cuts and not cutting defense. That's how this game is played. Lee Fong from The Nation, thank you so much for joining us. Great reporting.
Thanks for having me.
All right.